Some question marks surrounding the first severe weather threat of 2026. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Herboso with your Central Gulf Coast forecast. Today is Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. The Storm Prediction Center and their day 3 outlook valid for Friday into Friday night, including a slight risk of severe weather for portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, also Arkansas included in this, with the bullseye for the threat over central Mississippi. And I think that's where we have the best overlap of unstable air, even though the unstable air seems to be a bit limited, and wind shear for that severe weather potential. The potential is there for storms producing damaging winds and even a low-end tornado threat with this here. But there are still some conditions that need to be met, some question marks about this threat. For the Mobile-Pensacola area, on Friday night, there is a marginal risk, mainly northwest of I-65. We could see a couple of strong thunderstorms as the system moves into our local area. But the threat does seem quite limited. Looks like much of the wind shear support, the strongest wind shear dynamics, will be lifting north of our area by the time the storms roll through. That would mean that it would lower the threat slightly. So remember, marginal is the lowest end threat on the scale for the Storm Prediction Center's 1 through 5 severe weather outlook. And it literally means isolated, limited in duration and coverage. So a very low-end threat for us here, but it's still something that we will watch. Let's look at the upper level pattern first, kind of get a big idea of what's going on. An upper level ridge has been leading to some very warm temperatures over the deep south region, but our next trough is coming into the picture here, and that is what's going to spawn a surface low. It's the European forecast model that we're looking at. That surface low over East Texas there. That's going to be the main driver for this storm system. By Friday afternoon, showers and thunderstorms get going across Louisiana and Mississippi. Central Mississippi is going to be a focus area because we'll have that unstable air, and especially as we go into the evening, we will have some decent wind shear, so they're going to be watching for that storm threat. For us locally on Friday evening, a few rain showers and maybe a thunderstorm northwest of I-65. Not much happening there. Then Friday night into Saturday morning, we got to pay attention. We could see a couple of stronger thunderstorms in our local area. The main action will be across central Alabama, where we have a really strong low-level jet that is going to be developing, and that will lead to the potential for a low-end tornado threat, also some damaging winds possible if we get some strong storms that blossom in that region up in central Alabama, North Alabama. This is 4 a.m. on Saturday. We're going to be keeping an eye on the rain showers as they move in. We'll have rain showers mainly with a few embedded thunderstorms as it passes through on Saturday morning locally. A low-end chance for a couple of those thunderstorms to be strong. The severe weather parameters, the wind shear parameters lifting north of our area mainly, so keeping that threat kind of low. After this, though, after the front passes, some cooler air comes in behind. In fact, Sunday highs probably only in the 50s with mostly cloudy, partly cloudy skies. Cooler weather to start next week. Let's look at some of the individual parameters. We'll look at instability first on the forecast model here. You can see a core across central Mississippi, Arkansas, the Arklamis, essentially, where we do have some unstable air in place. That is warm air near the surface that can rise. The ability for warm air near the surface to rise, that is the CAPE that we're looking at, convective available potential energy. That is the technical name of this product that we're looking at. Anywhere you see the colors, of course, that's where you can have thunderstorms. And in this case, we do have enough instability to support a couple of stronger thunderstorms across the central part of Mississippi there. Then the European forecast model pulls back a little on some of this in the evening time. That is actually when the wind shear parameters ramp up. So there are some question marks, and this is why this is a bit of a conditional threat. Can we have enough unstable air in place to support thunderstorms that could take advantage of the wind shear dynamics that are across the northern part and central part of Mississippi and Alabama? Otherwise, here on the central Gulf Coast, you see we have limited instability, and along the immediate coast through Saturday night, instability values do get up there to a reasonable number, so we could see some thunderstorms going on. But as we get into Saturday morning, it looks like a lot of the wind shear support lifts north, so we just could have some thunderstorms going on. They won't have as much wind shear to take advantage of, but that does not mean the threat is zero for rotating storms and storms that can produce gusty winds. It's still technically a possibility. Let's switch gears and talk about wind shear. This is the low-level jet. This is the winds at around 5,000 feet, 850 millibars we call it, and this low-level jet develops across Mississippi and Alabama Friday night. Typically at night, the low-level jet intensifies, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And that can lead to a increase in the wind shear. If you look at the contrast between the southerly flow that you're seeing at 5,000 feet versus if you were to go up to, say, 18,000 feet, you have winds coming from a completely different direction. So naturally, south versus southwest wind, there's some wind shear in that. And as the low-level jet increases, it increases that wind shear parameter. So what does that do to the thunderstorms? It allows potential for rotating thunderstorms, and it makes it easier for strong thunderstorms to get some of this wind down to the surface. So there you see it. That risk is there, and that's lining up perfectly with the Storm Prediction Center's slight risk. Looking down here at the immediate coast, as we get into Saturday morning, that's when we get our unstable air here on the immediate coast. Some sort of low-level jet that we're looking at pushing winds from southwest and northeast, but the wind shear is not super strong in this case, so there's a low-end threat for us there. Let's talk about rainfall real quick. It looks like highest rainfall happens in the central and northern part of the state, where we could have over 2 inches of rain in some spots. For us locally, quarter of an inch, half an inch. I think maximum we see around an inch for us. So a lot of things that we're looking at in this overall storm threat. But for us here on the central Gulf Coast, low end, highly conditional, mostly rain showers with a few thunderstorms. A couple of them could become strong as we head into Saturday morning. We'll be keeping you totally updated on this. Follow us on social media. Just search my name on Facebook. I post a lot on Facebook with some more in-depth updates, so take a look at those. It should be useful and helpful information. Other headlines that we're tracking here on the Gulf Coast: foggy mornings and warm afternoons. The big deal. Cooler temps happen next week after this system. Dew points this morning have been pretty high. We're in the 60s there, and it's led to some fog development. Now, it's 11 a.m. is when we're recording this update, so the visibility is getting so much better at this point. Well, we have had some fog lingering at the immediate coast, therefore we keep a dense fog advisory until noon. I would not be surprised if we get another dense fog advisory issued for tonight. As you look at the forecast model, shows widespread fog, some dense, across the entire area. So make sure you're prepared for your Thursday morning commute for some fog. Now, this afternoon, temperatures well above average, 76 degrees, around 15 degrees above average with those south-southwest winds. Here are those forecast highs this afternoon, upper 70s in some locations. Look at Lucedale, Leakesville, Chatham, Calvert. 77 degrees there. We keep the warm temperatures through Friday. Then Saturday, the storm system passes. And early next week, we have cool temperatures, actually slightly below average. Highs only in the 50s there on Monday. Morning temperatures could get into the 30s, possibly low 30s. Then temperatures moderate into the low 60s next week. Here's a look at Futurecast. This is the graph model taking us through the near-term forecast. Overnight tonight, the fog develops. There it goes. Pretty widespread fog with mostly cloudy conditions, partly cloudy conditions out there. On Thursday, I can't rule out an isolated sprinkle under the mostly cloudy skies. Then by Thursday night, more lower potential for fog, but still some fog is possible. We'll have mostly cloudy skies and increasing wind out of the southeast. And then Friday, of course, we direct our attention to Mississippi, Louisiana, that slight risk zone for thunderstorms. We could see an isolated thunderstorm northwest of Interstate 65 Friday night, early in the nighttime hours. We'll be watching it for you, of course, here, and keep you updated on social media as we track that storm chance. Then after that, cooler weather for us here in our 7-day outlook. See temperatures returning to the 50s. Cool weather in January, something that would typically be normal for January. It just took us a while to get to it. It looks like it finally returns early next week. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Herboso.